it took that long? That's crazy. Alright. Alright, how's it going, friends? I I've been off to a rocky start here. Just trying to get things. Get all my ducks in a row here. God, this volume control is so finicky. Haha. Alright, so I got a new fun little widget here in the side. This is the Mastodon Federated Timeline. By the way, welcome to the stream. Alright, gotta set my world settings here. Let's see if I can... Personal lighting. No, always get that wrong. Never gonna get this right because it's so unintuitive, right? Like personal lighting, because when you select your environment you have to say just for me as if it was a personal setting. And then skies, I always kind of get these wrong too, but this looks like I finally got this right, so there's some progress, right? Yeah, apply only to myself as if it's a personal setting. Okay. Anyway, I don't know what happened with my streaming software, but somehow everything got reset, even though I literally did nothing at all since the last time I streamed. My computer was having some issues though, so maybe that was the reason I've had to do a lot of hard restarts lately. Maybe some data just got corrupted in some file somewhere, who the hell knows. God, what was I gonna say? I had some important thing to mention. Oh yeah, I found out what was going on with my video, which was really quite vexing. My video card crashed and I had to reboot, and when it rebooted, my cursor was like lagging like really badly. Like the reason I'm mentioning all of this, let's try Paradise Forever, is because I feel like this might be a more common problem for people in the future, and if you've ever had this problem, me figuring out how it works might actually help you to some degree. Well, this is intriguing. So yeah, anyway, my cursor was moving hella slow. Like, you know, almost like the CPU was going like at 100% or something. And I was like, oh great, maybe I've got some malware or some process in the background is using up all of my CPU. But it was like a really weird kind of problem. Very specific, because nothing else seemed to be going on, and it was just affecting the video. I thought, oh, maybe the video card is trashed somehow. Well, I can't get up above that, and there's not much going on down here, so I think this sim just isn't maybe finished yet. So I'm gonna try another sim. Lots of works in progress up in this quadrant. This Torval's Land Forest, that sounds cool, and this is a pretty interesting looking thumbnail. I don't have access, that sucks. Alright, Hamoa Island. Great, just striking out right and left here. Alright, let's try this. Malaya Kahana Island. Sounds kind of Hawaiian. I'm always up for a good Hawaiian island. Oh yeah, before I continue with my little story about my graphics problems, if there's anyone who on the stream who can tell me if the audio is working, I'd really appreciate it, because like I said, all my settings got reset and I noticed some of the audio didn't seem to be coming through, like the work the headset was working though, but the desktop audio wasn't coming through on the stream. Wow, that's a nice camera build. Good bake. It's got materials, got specular, and normal map. Let's see who made this. Leah Woodgate. Battlefield Cannon. I wonder if they ripped that from a video game. At any rate, it's a nice little build. So yeah, this looks like a pretty classic sort of resort island template kind of thing. Just like a club scene kind of. It's kind of mystifying to me how many of these Sims there are in Second Life. Just endless numbers. I mean, it really says something about, you know, the human psyche, desire for a paradise. I can't fly on this land, it's locked down. Nice beach towel. I mean, the ironic thing, of course, is that so many people live in places that are nothing like a tropical paradise. It's like, if you love a tropical paradise so much, why don't you try to move there? Just my recommendation, says the man who has been wanting to visit the Caribbean for like his entire life, pretty much, and has never gone. Yeah, so anyway, I actually have my video output on my computer hooked up to a 4K television, which is kind of weird, but it works for me. And so what had happened was, when my video card had done that hard crash, for some reason it had reset all of the like output settings to the display, and I don't know why, but it had picked this. Oh, I just walked on a landmine or something. That was kind of cool. It changed the refresh rate of my display from, I don't know what it was. It was I mean, it's supposed to be at like 90 hertz, I think. And like, I barely understand this stuff. Like, I get that it's like the actual frequency that the video is output to the display, or like the speed that the display refreshes as the video signal is sent to the display. I just don't understand the logistics of how like the display is capable of changing the refresh rate, and how the video card and the display communicate, or like, yeah, it's confusing to me. But anyway, so that's what happened. Basically, the display rate. Wow, now that does not look very user friendly. That looks painful as hell. The display rate had changed to a really weird, like 23 point something or other hertz, and just because of that 1 single setting, it was completely screwing up my my video output, so that I thought that there was something wrong with my video card, or that there was some app running in the background. Wow, that's like a straight up Auschwitz fence over there. So yeah, that was kind of weird. So anyway, I set the hertz to the correct refresh rate. It was like a really obscure setting though. It wasn't like easy to find. Yeah, jump fence. So it took me a little while to find it, but yeah, how weird that that was completely screwing up my video performance, even though I have like a pretty good video card. It was like I couldn't even. I've been playing this new game, V Rising, I think it's called. And anyway, like the day that my video card, or the hertz had changed on my display, warning a little bit of nudity in here. This BDSM castle here. Yeah, the minute that had changed, I like almost couldn't play this game anymore because it was just so sluggish. Like, I don't know, it just, I was fascinated though, honestly, that the refresh rate could cause so much trouble. Like, that was the first time I'd ever really encountered that particular problem. Like, well, that's creepy and gross and awful. Just processing. But yeah, I've been using computers for a really long time, and I have come across almost every conceivable problem that you could imagine with video outputting, and that was the first time that I had ever experienced that particular problem, so that was interesting. So yeah, now the refresh rate's nice and high, so everything's more or less back to normal, and I'm not really experiencing any other performance degradations, which is nice. Oh, there we go. There's a lot of kind of cool builds on this property. Lucky the images are loading so slowly, because it seems like it's just wall-to-wall porn on this sim. Nice harp. Death Row Designs. I didn't know Death Row made any musical instruments. That's pretty cool. See, I'm kind of working myself up to talk about the main topic that I wanted to discuss today in today's stream, which is is this a condom dispenser? Which is, of course, International Women's Day, which kind of apropos that I'm on this vaguely exploitative, sexually objectifying sim, which, like, it could be a tropical paradise and a kind of like porno type situation. Like, it could have just been one, but instead it's both. It's kind of cool. As always, Neotoy Story is the consummate passive observer. But yeah, basically, the stuff I wanted to talk about is probably the most controversial stuff I've ever said on stream, which is I don't know, really saying something, given that I've touched on quite a few hot button. Live event is over. How? Oh, this is another stream's chat. Oh my god. Sorry guys. Alright, that was the old stream that failed, and thank you for Romsey for letting me know about the chat. Good to see a friendly face again. It's been a while. Haha. That must have been just as frustrating for everyone else as it was for me. Oh yeah, this... Great. I'll paste the SL URL into the actual chat. There we go. Alright. And hey Caesar. Nice to see you again too. Alright, gonna try another sim here. But yeah, International Women's Day. First, let me start out by saying, just to front load everyone and to blow all your minds, I am super, massively, extremely, hyperactively sexist. But not in the way you think. I guess you could say I'm a female supremacist. Okay, Hulapo Island. Let's see if we can hit another tropical island up here. Yeah, definitely wouldn't ignore you guys, Romsey. Yeah, usually this is like one of those weird, just to get into a meta paradoxical mind loop, straight into the water. Good job, Neotoy. Or am I in a tree? I can't tell. He likes trees too, you know? I was in a tree. I thought I was in a tree underwater there for a second. That would have been like a double word score. But yeah, usually when people say that someone is sexist or that they're sexist, it's a bad thing, right? But what if it... I got booted from the sim. But what if it wasn't? What if there was such a thing as good sexism? Back to old Ahern. And let me explain. Because boy, is that a controversial statement, right? So yeah, obviously when men are sexist towards women, it's horrible. I mean, I think most people would agree with that. The way women are treated in the world is not great. In the best parts of the world and in the worst parts of the world, it's beyond horrific. Alright, Frozen Valley. Let's try this. And why is that exactly? You know, one of these statements that I think is the most... Casablanca Society, huh? Well, this looks interesting. Lots of cool landscaping going on here. There's a lot of victim blaming that happens, obviously, you know, where people turn things around on women. Whether it's domestic violence or treatment in the workplace or so many things. It just goes on and on and on. Like, basically, you know, something bad happens to a woman and it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't have been acting the way you were, or, you know, you brought this on yourself. Like, I'm just wading through the staircase here. That's interesting. Must have been Phantom. And I think you really can't talk about any of this stuff without confronting that elephant in the room right off the bat. And there's many elephants. It's a stampede. It's a herd of elephants in the gender issues, gender equality room. But that's one of the biggest. That's like one of the bull elephants. Is the that victim blaming. It's just generic, absolutely normal cliche stuff, slut shaming, all this, and then like sort of that big bull elephant's brother is double standards, where which I think. First of all, double standards is something that I'm not sexist about at all. I believe in total parity and equality there. I think double standards should be completely eliminated, mainly because I think they can be safely differentiated from differences, which are in many ways intrinsic to gender. Or sex. One of the one of my favorite experiences of when I was doing this internship, uh, one of my interns, this brilliant young woman, who was like, I wouldn't call her a militant feminist, but she was definitely getting closer to being militant than whatever the opposite of that is. And we were having a discussion about uh, gender stuff and feminism at one point, and I asked her about something. I can't remember what it was now. Maybe it was about the pay gap, and she said to me that men and women are different, and that's okay. Of course, we live in a vastly more complicated world now with things like transgenderism and non-binary and everything else. There's just so much to consider, and it's a lot more nuanced than it ever has been before, I think, and not because it wasn't um, always that way, but just because people are being more open about their experiences and their feelings and and all that stuff. But yeah, ultimately I think it's easy and essential to say that double standards are bad and horrible and we need to eliminate them, and that has nothing really to do with the fact that men and women are different. I mean, everyone's different, but broadly as statistical categories, which are inherently problematic on some level, men and women are different. Different physiologically, different chemically, different biologically, physically, every way there are differences, and these differences are real, they're not imaginary. That's an important distinction as well. However, I feel like I'm sort of getting way off topic, um, which I just want to swing back around to my radical pro female sexism. My belief that fundamentally, on some level, women are superior to men. And now, as extreme and as offensive as that statement may be to some people, I would like to at least provide what I think is a little bit of very compelling evidence to support that extreme statement. And furthermore, I would like to say that I think it's okay to believe extreme points of view that don't necessarily have negative impacts. And I think it's possible for this particular view, because of the bizarre world of double standards and sort of the meta paradox of that to be the case. So, in terms of the evidence for why women are superior to men, I would provide all of human history as item number one in terms of analysis, and I would have to say it's pretty straightforward. Just someone like me who may not be the smartest person in the world to be able to explain very simply and generally what particular things might be considered very compelling evidence for these statements in the simplest way without much trouble at all. And it's actually kind of surprising. If you think about almost every single event in human history, major event, or conflict, or catastrophe, universally, almost without exception, every single one of those events has been caused or facilitated or in some way masterminded by a man or men. And initially that statement might seem kind of bizarre and extreme, but once again, all anyone ever has to do is just look at the evidence. And now, before I get any further along this line of reasoning, I just want to point out that ultimately, even if this extreme viewpoint were 100% true, it doesn't necessarily mean that men need to hate themselves or anything like that. It's possible to be something you don't want to be without having any choice in the matter. And I believe for a lot of people, that's always the case, whether they're men or women or whatever. The truth is, a lot of biology and psychology is in a lot of ways deterministic, predetermined, and or it's so hard to change or shift that it would take a lifetime to even make a small impact, and by then it's really kind of too late, you know? But I'd also like to operate under the sort of auspices that it's never too late. This is yet another paradox. It's never too late, and personalities, the very being of what a person is not intrinsically deterministic. It is malleable. There is neuroplasticity. People can change. It doesn't mean they want to. It doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. And some people are lost cause and just aren't going to ever become better people. That's also just a fact, and it has to be confronted and acknowledged and accepted and not swept under the rug or glazed over with woke, politically correct rhetoric. Everyone needs to go into everything with eyes wide open. That's sort of like the core of where I'm coming from, at least. Alright, Casablanca, this was kind of cool. I think think it's worth a visit. Mainly a sort of one of those shop type mall sims with some art exhibits and some interesting landscaping. Kind of cool. Pretty conventional though. That was Frozen Valley. Let's see if I can find another sim that's a little more interesting. Oh, there's so many shopping sims. It really is a testament to the power of consumerism. This one looks interesting. Octavia. Wonder if it's related to Octavia Butler. But yeah, the track record is not great for men. And furthermore, the additional caveats here. I'd like to say that not all people. It's become kind of like this men's rights cliche or whatever, not all men or whatever. And one of the worst things about any sort of dialogue about these issues is they're operating at a very high level and they're statistical, right? They're not case by case. They're not specific. They're not human. They're more like a machine. Really, it's just kind of like analyzing these vast quantities of meat, sorting them into piles, trying to make sense out of what is inherently not going to be easy to make sense out of. And once again, this is another thing that is necessary to accept and not try to pretend away or gloss over. But it's crucial to understand that and to kind of keep it in your mind as much as possible, because it's really horrible when we lose sight of individuality while we're talking about these bigger, broader categories or archetypes, like when you talk about male or female. There's a lot of things that fall in between the cracks there, and it doesn't matter how many categories you create or how many how many genders or whatever. It's never going to account for everyone and everything, because evolution and biology, not only is it continuously changing, but it's always striving to create new worlds and new modes of existence and being and consciousness. And if that ever stops, then the universe itself will cease to exist, because that is the nature of the universe. It never stops evolving. Looks like there's a bunch of little houses. I want to see if I can fly over to that other one. There's like a sim broken up into quads. So yeah, like all of that stuff is preamble, right, to even the most basic discussion about gender, sexism, whatnot. And like even with all that being said, all that extraditional complexity, it's just the prologue to the larger discussion. But I still want to try to stay on topic as much as possible. By the way, Mastodon is super awesome. You guys can see to the right that I have the federated feed. It's so cool. I thought it would be fun to just have it going while I was streaming, just another sort of random generated topic type thing, although most of those posts are actual human beings. Mastodon's really opened my eyes to a lot of things and helped me realize a lot of stuff. It helps fill in a lot of gaps. There's a lot of non-binary and trans people on Mastodon, and it really is true what they say, like the best way to have your mind opened is just exposure to things that you don't necessarily understand, subscribe to, or agree with, and in a safe way, so that you're not like threatened or in danger in any way, which honestly is one of the few things about social media that I think is worthwhile. Although it may be kind of a false statement to say that it's not dangerous and that it's safe, because there's always a psychological risk, which was actually something I wanted to talk about in my last video. It was the one topic that I kind of left off the end of the stream that I really wanted to get into, which is that I feel like over my short career on the internet and social media, I've done a lot of unintentional damage. Once again, this is similar to that thing where I was talking about, like, people don't always intend to do harm. Sometimes it just happens, or it's part of their personality, or in my case, there was a lot of, like, conditioning that I wasn't even aware of. Alright, this was kind of an interesting sim. But yeah, I feel a lot of guilt and remorse for some of my like mental modes that I definitely like exposed people to over the years. Like, I didn't have the wisdom or the insight at the time to really sounds familiar. I think I've been to Virtual Decay, maybe. Well, I'm just gonna see if I can go there again. Hopefully I'll recognize it pretty quick if I've been there before. But yeah, so anyway, like, as I've come to realize, this looks familiar but also different. Of course, Sims are live too, so they change all the time as well. Just a mirror of reality. But yeah, so I've decided to kind of retool myself intellectually, because I really want to change the trajectory of kind of where I was going with my communication and ideology. I came to recognize, a lot of the stuff that I said or thought, it definitely had sort of a negative and damaging sort of element to it. But like I said, it wasn't entirely my choice. But once you become cognizant of harm that you're doing, then it's time to reevaluate, which is kind of the ideal segue for what I wanted to talk about. But at first, just let me apologize. I'm sorry for all the times that I inadvertently, caused harm. I didn't do it on purpose. I really didn't. And when I did do it on purpose, it left an impact on me and others, and I'm sorry about that, and I'm trying to change for real. So the important thing that I wanted to say that was related to that is that I think that's something that men and males as this sort of amorphous abstract idea. I think the time has come for that. And there was like the whole Me Too thing, and all of that was definitely significant and meaningful, but clearly it didn't even come close to addressing the totality of the situation. And I think pretty much everybody is aware of this. I mean, everybody who's really a thinking and feeling creature. Yeah, this is all hard, honestly, to talk about. It's a little difficult. Uh, I think, but I think it's worth talking about. And so what I mean in saying the time's come, I mean that it's time for specifically men, people who identify as men, to take whatever cognition they have about the role that men have played throughout history, for millennia, in making the world kind of the place that it is today, especially in regards to how women are treated and just all of the things that just should not be in this world. It's time to like acknowledge that and think about a different way of living and of being. And I just realized I totally glossed over the whole evidence thing, but just let me give a few examples, or like things that I think are examples. This is cool, like a dark room setup. Anytime like something really terrible happens, or I think back in history and there's a historic event that was really terrible, we're not talking natural disasters. However, the responses to natural disasters can be really enlightening and insightful there. But anytime there's a horrible thing happens, just ask yourself, if women were in charge, if we lived in a matriarchy and not a patriarchy, would that thing, whatever it is, have happened? And almost every single time I ask myself that question, the answer is almost without exception no. Whether it's a war, or the development of a weapon, or a financial catastrophe, or workplace exploitation, whatever it is, honestly, it's really horrific to think about all these things. However, if you're on the news at all, you can't avoid it. There's just so much exposure constantly. There's a tragedy happening somewhere, and always, like, at the root of it, there's a man or a group of men. It's like, it's really fucked up, honestly. And a lot of these times, like, many, I would say the majority of these situations, like, it's unconscious. It's kind of, what I would think of as, what do they call it? There's a term for this in racism too, like, implicit racism, or, it's like basically where the person is so racist they don't even realize that they're racist, or alternately that they've been brainwashed and engendered with racism to the degree that they are incapable of even knowing that what they're doing is wrong, because to them it's just like, that's life, that's reality. And I mean, that's kind of the world we live in general. I'd say like a lot of people are able to understand and are aware of the inappropriateness and injustice that exists, but the world as a whole, the reason we still live in a patriarchy in almost all societies in the world is because of this intrinsic, implicit sexism. And incidentally, that just exists because of men. I mean, there's no easy way to come out and say it other than that. Like, I don't want that to be so. Once again, I'll say this doesn't make me personally feel guilty. Being a man, there's nothing wrong with being a man. I think there is something wrong with being a bad person. And the worst thing, of course, in my mind, is if you know you're doing something bad and you refuse to change. And in society, that almost always happens because being bad gives a person advantages. And that's kind of like, that's awesome. And that's the main issue. That's the situation we find ourselves in. And that's kind of what I'm trying to address with this conversation, is like, being sexist, being a patriarch in a patriarchal society gives you tangible, real world advantages. It gives you material advantages, it gives you social advantages, all, of course, at the cost, the extreme and severe cost to women and girls. And that just isn't right. And a lot of men are aware of this, and a lot of men aren't. And it's not a good situation, and it needs to change. And so yeah, I just I wanted to talk about that because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I don't know, like, where do we go from here? That's like the real question. Because, you know, when you're in the middle of a patriarchy, God, I feel like there's a lot more to this sim, but I can't. It's hard to navigate, and I can't fly. I really need to get my thing down where I'm like just flying as default when I go into any sim. I think the sim used to be like big back in the day, like Urban Decay. Wait a second. Oh no, Virtual Decay. Yeah, they wouldn't use a brand name in their sim. Yeah, I mean, let's see. There was that Emma Watson thing a while back. He for she, which I know that didn't go over too well on YouTube for a lot of people, just because it raises everyone's hackles, or at least all the sexist males out there. Yeah, I'm just going in circles at this point. All right, time to find a different sim here. I post this one in. Octavia? Virtual decay. But yeah, like, it's really difficult because no one except for the bad actors are responsible for their bad behavior, right? I mean, in isolation, that statement has some truth to it. And then you consider all of the facilitators and the nurturers and the people who helped help people get to where they are in that situation, and they bear some of the responsibility and the blame too. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about them? Like, there are many levels, and that's why these problems are so endemic and hard to eradicate. And then on top of that, there's all the generational stuff too. I mean, the social web is just so complex. Like, even coming close to starting to deconstruct these problems is a challenge, but obviously we have to try. Neutral combat sim, good neighbor. It looks kind of like the vault from Fallout. Lots of Star Wars stuff in here. But yeah, the he for she thing was like, well, first I'm gonna just briefly describe that for those who haven't heard of it, and then after that I will talk about sort of one alternative that I've thought of that is not really much of an alternative, but it's just something that I've been thinking about. This reminds me of something I read on Mastodon just the other day. Like, if you want to take over a country, if you want to change the world, if you want to make an impact on a broader societal level, classrooms, courtrooms, and culture. Those are the three pillars that allow for transformation. So, I mean, obviously, you can look at the Nazi playbook and they, followed this flawlessly, which is one of the reasons they were so effective. The question is, how do we take that sort of strategy and use it in a good way that doesn't result in a horrific scenario? This is basically like a Fallout sim, like the Holocaust. But yeah, so he for she was like this concept that in order to help women, men needed to kind of like step up, and because obviously, like, think about it, men are in charge, right, in almost every institution in the world. In the well, ironically, when we talk about classrooms, men are in the minority. Courtrooms, men are in the majority. And in culture, well, that's kind of a mixed bag. You couldn't really say that there's one sex or gender that is, maybe outweighing another. So this is like basically a kill or be killed sim, and I don't feel like getting blown up today, so I'll just copy and paste the SO URL in here. Interesting sim name. On one hand, it seems fair if you're the one in charge, you're the one who needs to make the managerial kind of changes, to improve society. there's a certain logic to that, but that also really clashes with sort of this idea that um, people are only responsible for their own actions, and also like how do you rationalize that with this sort of like bootstrap mentality of American capitalism? It's like, which I don't know, is very social Darwinist, really. Maybe it's wrong. You know, I personally think it's wrong. I think it's very messed up. I can't zoom out on the world map for some reason. It's very irritating. Ugh. This looks interesting. Almost like a ski slope, Karis. Uh-oh, security orb. I'm gonna get my ass booted out of here in seconds flat. Oh, this looks pretty complicated. Second Life military. I think I've already been to one of these sims before, not this one in particular, but there must be a lot of RP sims in this quadrant. Yeah, so my alternative to that is that kind of intrigues me. I actually want to check this out. Thai Cultural Society. Voluntary, unilateral, peaceful transfer of power. Oh, great. That's not useful. I'm up in outer space here. Let's see if I can manually edit this. I've never tried this before. Let's see if it works. This place doesn't have a landing pad. Alright, let's see. I'll go to Plains and then see if I can go back to the Thai Cultural Society, and maybe since I'm on the ground, it'll allow me to teleport onto the ground instead of up into the sky. Yeah, it looks like it worked, and I'm underwater. Don't know very much about Thailand. God, I wish they would stop turning fly off. It's really irritating. Okay, I'm gonna do this one more time. Alright. Okay, it just sat me back down. Alright, I guess I'm just trapped underwater until I can find a chair or something to teleport into. Well, it looks pretty amazing. From the outside, at least. Oh, good. There we go. Interesting that they changed the prompt from sit here to teleport, probably because it's a vehicle that takes you around. Man, why would they turn off flying on a sim like this? I really don't want to go back underwater. Alright, maybe the boat will actually take me over to the temple. Oh, okay, the boat is a teleporter. Interesting. Alright. Well, this is pretty cool looking, to be honest. That's awesome. Neat landscaping too. Wow, those floating lanterns are just like the most popular thing in the world right now. Ugh. Having trouble finding my legs today. Yeah, I don't know. It's the one sort of like reluctance I have to. It's like, how do you take away power from the patriarchy, like in a way that isn't going to involve bloodshed and conflict? You know, we want like a bloodless revolution, basically. But people never give away, well, not never, and certainly not all people. People in general do not give away power once they've accumulated it. It's like money. This is really cool. I'm definitely gonna paste the SL URL into here. I'd probably learn all about Thailand from walking through this exhibit here. That's pretty cool. They do have a beautiful script. This looks pretty new, I think. It looks kind of like materials on the wall. Oh, nice. There's like a tutorial. This is very well designed and composed. Impressive. Even the little details like the teleporter pads are like thematic. So yeah, I mean, no one's really cracked this nut, right? That's why there's so much economic inequality and gender inequality in the world. Because people accumulate power for whatever reason. Most of the time it's because of bad things, whether it's colonialism or violence, and then they don't want to give it up. And on top of that, they're sort of like genetically predisposed for those behaviors. So not only do they have to change their minds and their personalities, but on some level they have to change their genetics, and that's a tall order. And then externally, the people who aren't bad and want to help make that change happen, they don't have any of the money and they don't have any of the power. They've got no leverage, and they're basically at the mercy of the people who need to change, and that's difficult. Of course, you know, the beauty, I think, of the he for she thing is that it sort of like addresses the complexity of that in a very like prototypical female way, which is sort of like a gentle, passive, well, not passive necessarily, but a sensitive and caring sort of way to initiate a transition, which, from my point of view, you know, without sounding too overtly sexist, which is how I always feel whenever I talk about women as being sensitive and caring and nurturing and whatnot. And of course, again, with the caveat that these are statistical generalizations and in no way define individuals. And this complex is huge. I'm really wondering. There's so many layers. Wow. How do I get from one layer to the next? Is there stairs that go up there? It's kind of dark in here. That's the one downside. Yeah, I mean, in reality, oh, though there's a giant elevator here. Okay. Part of cracking that other larger puzzle is being able to discuss things openly. I think I might already be on floor 2. 23? That's a bit high. Alright, let's try this. Okay. That doesn't seem to be working. Maybe it's not even an elevator. Maybe you need teleporters to get from one area to the next. Really like these incense lilies. Those are really cool. Alright. Where was that teleporter? I think it was on the other side. But it really would have helped if they had allowed flying on this sim. Maybe there's a bug they finally patched where you used to be able to come in flying and then you didn't have to walk everywhere. Actually, I'm getting to the point where I think if this teleporter doesn't work, I'm just going to, actually, that's not even a teleporter. Never mind. Alright, I'm just gonna use the eye in the sky here to explore the different layers because I am not smart enough to figure out the stairs. The one other dimension I wanted to cover when I was thinking about this sort of like guilt response that people have, like where they do something bad and then they just feel incredibly guilty about it. Like, that response is not useful. And I think it's something that really is deeply problematic in sexism. And especially when people have this extreme reaction where they respond to their own guilt with aggression. And then that aggression ends up being outward facing. Looks like this is a exhibit that is still being constructed. Maybe there is no upstairs yet because they haven't built it. Doesn't seem like there's as much going on up here as I thought there would be. Maybe they built this amazing structure and then they couldn't figure out how to make all the floors accessible. It sure is a nice piece of architecture, I'll say that much. Alright, I think I've seen enough of this. If I want to explore all the inner depths of the Thai Cultural Society, they're welcome to do so. Neotoy Story has reached his limit so far, even though I definitely want to learn more about Thai culture, that's for sure. Dirty Princess. Right, I'm tempted. Just how topical should we get here on this? Wow, that's a big chunk of sims. Was that 4? No, it's just one sim. I'm gonna find something interesting. Oxymoron. Alright, let's give it a shot. I think it's safe to say that, like, none of these problems will just magically be solved. Sexism always gonna be a thing on some level, sadly. As long as they're human beings, at least. Case in point. Jesus. Oh my god. Yeah, I'm starting having like what's that quote? I think maybe from 1984 about like, if you want to imagine the future, just picture a jackboot stomping on a human face for all eternity. But definitely don't want to go down that route and stray into nihilism. Yeah, I can fly again. I almost forgot how to fly. That other sim was so restrictive. Yeah. Every new statement, every new neural pathway in my mind is just like another exercise in holding contradictions in my head. Like, how do we remain hopeful in a world that we know can only change in small ways in our lifetimes, you know? It's hard. The struggle is real, as the kids say. Man, this sim is amazingly expansive. I like how the architecture is both complicated and simple at the same time. Let me get rid of this. Speaking of 1984, good old Fritz Lang, Metropolis. I love how this sim is very articulate in many ways, and yet at the same time there's sort of a vagueness to it. Like, the structures are all so coherent, and yet there's not as much substance as you would expect. It's very much like a low budget 90s adventure game. It reminds me a little of like Final Fantasy VII props and sets. But overall, like, there's just enough coherency there to like really kind of catch your interest and to keep exploring. That's kind of like the ideal balance in Second Life, because you know, you only have so many prims to work with. Your land impact is not infinite, so you have to compromise. And this landscape, the actual built out landscape, is really extensive here, so they had to economize. That's why everything is low poly, but it was done in a good way, in a decent way. Lots of neat little details like that. That's pretty cool. Oh, there's a lot of atriums. I like that. I think what amazes me the most about women is like everything that they have to deal with and put up with on a daily basis. Like, just, and of course, once again, statistical snapshot, not characteristic of each individual, but in general, you know, like, boy, like, how do they do it? How do women do it? It's really incredible. I mean, that's pretty rad. Reminds me of that Ginger Roberts quote. I don't know if it was her, but about how like she had to do everything Fred Astaire did, only backwards and in high heels, as a metaphor for the female experience. I feel like that's pretty on target. Like, it's just so much harder for women, and it shouldn't be. And that's the ultimate goal for me personally, is like to not have that be the case by whatever means necessary, you know? And obviously there is a peaceful option. I don't think we're gonna see like women in the streets with AK-47s and Molotov cocktails burning the patriarchy to the ground anytime soon, even though honestly that's what it deserves. That's what it's had coming for thousands of years. And I, for one, would not in any way be sad to see that happen. And of course, as a male, I could be one of the casualties in that uprising. But that's the thing about women in general. Statistically, that's a very unlikely scenario. It's just not the kind of thing that, you know, you expect to see happen. There's a lot to explore in this sim. So yeah, after you just keep like chipping away at the fabric of this nightmare in a sense, and you know, it's at some point you have to like ask yourself, like, what's an actionable step that can be taken to like improve the world for women, to make it so they don't have to struggle so hard just to live the same life that, you know, men are accustomed to in general. And all the above actions really need to be taken, I think. Like education, obviously crucial. You know, young people, instead of being indoctrinated into the patriarchal system, they need to be taught like the opposite of all that stuff. And I mean, you would think that stuff would just kind of come naturally, but it doesn't, because once again, the people in power, the patriarchy, indirectly in a lot of ways dictates all these things. Alright, this is a cool sim, but I think it's time to move on. I think I posted the SL URL of this already. Nope. Oxymoron. Pretty cool sim. I have to eat some lunch here pretty soon. But yeah, so how do we do it, friends? How do we make the world better for women? And my answer, the thing I came up with was first of all, listen. You know, listen to women and learn from women. I think listening is crucial because you will hear their experiences and you will gain empathy for what women have to go through. And no one can make that happen. It's something that has to happen internally in a person's own mind. And then learn, you know, from that. Learn from those experiences. And I mean, really, it's that simple, isn't it? Like, and yet so hard. Like, why is that so hard for men? Most men, a lot of men, a segment of the male population. I mean, even with all the supercomputers in the world mining all of the data available, would it really be possible to diagram and chart these things statistically? I don't know. And that's why my voice, just like any voice on this topic, is so, like, I don't know, it's just a drop in the bucket, but every drop is important. You know, that's how social sea changes happen. You gotta do whatever you can do. And unlocking that, like, for me, the key really is, like, that cognition, that self-awareness. These are pretty flowers. It's like you can't stop doing bad things until you realize that you're doing them. That's crucial. And then, of course, once you experience that cognition, then you have to make the choice. And that's on the individual level. And then on the larger level, you know, how do you help other people go through that same transformation? Oh, these are awesome. Bumblebee, polar bears. That's so cool. And just for the record, I guess I didn't really make it super clear, but I'm not really in favor of a matriarchal society either. I don't, I mean, I definitely don't want a patriarchy, I know that much. But, a matriarchal society, while I certainly think it would be far better for not only the human race, but for the global ecosystem. In fact, if we lived in a matriarchal society, I doubt there'd be climate change, I doubt there'd be global pollution. I mean, It's just inference, but that's my gut feeling. But on the other hand, like, men and women are different, and that's okay. And whatever male is, whatever male means, there's something of value there as well. It's just, it's buried and it's been warped by a lot of stuff. I mean, who knows why or how exactly. These are cute little watering cans. It's a nice prop, actually. Yeah, there's another mystery to solve, like, as if it wasn't just one mystery after another, right? But, like, why? I mean, I've always written it off personally. I've always thought, like, okay, the reason men are the way that they are, the real mankind is the way it is because of evolutionary psychology, and that, like, at one point the world was many, many magnitudes more brutal and dangerous and ruthless. And biologically, the response to that was, you know, kill or be killed. And yet, somewhere within that strange kind of speculative horrorscape, a new energy kind of started to develop, maybe in parallel or maybe contradictively, like a counter energy to that. And I mean, I feel like, even generalizing, at least to me, it's pretty clear that a lot of that positive, like, healing, nurturing energy is embodied in women. Alright, this was interesting. This is one of those, like, procedurally generated pet sims. Hidden feelings. A lot of info hubs. St. George, huh? Let's see what we have here. It doesn't look like it's gonna connect. There it goes. Wow. Oh god, it's just a rental sim. Alright, that's a no-go. Always wondered how Linden Labs, like, decides how to parcel out the sims and, like, where to put them, because they can pretty much put them anywhere in this big blue sea. And it seems like there's certainly a bit of mindful composition. This looks interesting. Chronicles of Mars. I wonder if that's related to Edgar Rice Burroughs at all. Damn. That was a no-fly zone. That's a big red dot. Wow, that's a awesome looking sim. Au revoir. Oh, it's taking a long time to connect. It's weird. Oh, this is surrealist. Right into a miniature theater. Good job on the arrows. Wow. Wow, this is pretty awesome looking. I can't even begin to imagine what I'm looking at here. Maybe like a cinemaphile type sim. I almost feel like, you know, reading the descriptions of the Sims is almost pointless, especially since it's so easy to write and so hard to build in Second Life. I like their custom terraforming. It's kind of cool how there's just these little bits of logo in the mountain peaks. Gotta be something at the top of the mountain, right? Whatever it is, it's not coherent. And this is just somebody's playground. Let's see what's going on over here. Oh, a museum. Looks like it's also a work in progress. Huh. I'm kind of curious to see where these pathways go. Just gonna follow one though. This is pretty cool, actually. Great, another security orb. That's a cool piece of art. I gotta say, I kind of like the way there's these little bubbles of interests scattered around. Like I said, it's totally incoherent, but it's also kind of cool. Interesting enough to explore. I've also really liked this style of little island, kind of like post-apocalyptic looking things out on the water around Sims. It's always been a cool look, I've thought. Up in the air, I better make sure I'm back on the ground before I teleport out of here. Otherwise I'm gonna end up in that situation that I really dislike. Why is there no name on this sim? Looks pretty well developed, but there's no way to teleport there. I think I'm gonna call it quits around 3 o'clock, just FYI. As always, my streams are just pure exploration, really. That's a very weird thumbnail. Exploring concepts, not solving problems, just like I'm exploring Second Life. I don't know. They say, like, being aware of the problem is the first step, right? Have I been to Cloud Forest before? That sounds familiar. Alright, I'm in a little box. Oh, this is definitely a development. It's kind of cool to be able to see cities that are being built in Second Life. Well, they always look so familiar. I mean, I guess ultimately people just go to the marketplace and they buy big prop sets, and the same assets get recycled over and over again, so of course they look the same. I'm gonna, even though I can't technically explore this, I'm gonna bring up preferences and change my draw distance, and then I should be able to explore the whole city from the little penalty box they stuck me into, although at an extremely low frame rate. At least they use some nice assets in here. It looks like they're actually doing a great job of building the, oh my god, that's one of my assets. That's my lamppost. I think that's the 2.0 one too. I can't view the profile because I'm in the penalty box. Oh well. That's cool to see my assets being used in the wild. Doesn't happen too often. I did work hard on that one. It was quite the improvement from the version 1.0, which had a prohibitively high land impact. Yeah, they even got construction work happening over here. That's right at the bounds of my draw distance, so I can't actually go any closer. Damn, there's a lot of polys in this build. Jesus, even the security cameras. It's crazy. It's a bit frustrating not being able to scry any of the assets. These are cool lights. Huh. Big Brother is watching. God, that's an insanely detailed security cam. Like, holy cow, that's a lot of polys. Ah, look at those bromeliads. Pretty cool. Yeah, this has gotta be one of the way more detailed cityscapes that I've seen in Second Life. What is that, a penthouse up there with a swimming pool and vending machines? Damn, look at those vending machines. Yeah, the land impact must be like off the charts for this place. Look at these railings, jeez. That was just one little corner. Of course, once again though, these are like, I'm guessing probably 99% prefab, so. I mean, could you imagine building a city like this in Second Life from scratch? How long that would take? Not achievable, unless you had like a team of maybe like 10 or 20 people working full time for a few months. Guess it's an automotive shop, huh? Service center. That's pretty cool. Alright, let's go over to the other side of the city here. Hotel Impala. Of course, there's those houses outside the bounds too. I guess it's like the countryside, kind of, basically. Could be like the personal residence of the creator. Like I said, I don't really check out the sim information much anymore, because it's like, why bother? And of course, since I paste the SL URLs, if anyone's really curious, they can just go check it out for themselves, right? That's cool. These buildings, even though they're empty, like, they're not just prop buildings, they're actually like open on the inside mostly. Oh, that's a cool chandelier. Just kind of in the middle of a parking garage kind of area. That's kind of neat. I always have to kind of wonder whenever I see these kinds of sims, like, what is the purpose? What goes on in these sims? I mean, it's a really neat recreation of reality. A little diorama. But, like, what's the utility of it? Yeah, this is, like, impressively detailed for a Second Life city. Alright, It's 3 o'clock. Time for me to bail and get some food. I think I'm actually going to leave my avatar here, though. I want to explore this some more later on my own. Yeah, so happy International Women's Day. Try to treat the ladies in your life with the love and respect they deserve, and remember, it's hard. It's hard being a woman. Listen, learn. Thanks for watching. See you next time.